Hi guys, it's Nina from Kids Knits, and today we are going to learn how to knit a toque. We're going to do a very basic style hat just like this one, but we're going to use materials that you can get from like your local craft stores or like Michael's or something like that. When I first started knitting, I went for the Woolies Thick and Quick by Lion Brand yarn. It was affordable, easy to get, and very easy to work with. So that's what I started with. So this is everything I would recommend if you are a beginner knitter and you're just gonna try and see if you like it and you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money. I have some fancier yarn, so I used a little bit more of an expensive hand-dyed yarn for this one, which is a merino wool, but I don't think you need to like go big when you're first starting, even though it's like super pretty. I think just go for something a little bit more affordable. That way you don't really care too much if you have to keep ripping it out and there's not like a worry of ruining your yarn kind of thing. Let's just go straight into this. I would recommend watching the how to cast on video before we go into this tutorial. So if you haven't already done that, go watch that video and then come back to this one. For today's tutorial, we are just using Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. You can get this at Michael's, you can get this at Walmart, you can get it at lionbrand.com. This is just an easy, affordable yarn. It is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. This is a really great, super bulky option. It holds its shape quite nice. When knitting a hat, you're going to want to do your brim stitches in a smaller needle size, which is why I have my 9mm, which is what I typically do for my brims. And then when you get to the body or the main section of the hat, you're going to want to size up to your 10mm. Doing a hat, you only want the 16-inch length. I do recommend these clover bamboo ones when you're starting out because they're not super slippery, which is really good when you're a new beginner knitter. So your stitches can kind of stay on there and you have a little bit more control. Grab your 9mm knitting needles, your yarn, and stitch marker. I'm going to go ahead and cast on 42 stitches. That's how many I need to make this size for a toque. Oops. This will probably be a little bit boring to watch if you already know what you're doing. Again, you can skip ahead. If you need to learn how to do this part, like I just said, you can go back and watch my long tail cast on video. So I'm going to meet you guys back here once I've cast on 42 stitches. Here's my completed cast on, and now I'm going to join in the round so I can begin knitting. I showed this in the cast on video as well, but we're just going to do it again here. So I'm going to slide off that slip stitch and bring that first stitch from my right needle over, pull those tight, and now I'm going to add my stitch marker to mark the beginning of my round. You want to make sure that you don't start knitting with your tail yarn, so make sure you keep that tucked away, and you're just going to hold your needles like so. Find a way that's comfortable for you. What we're going to do for the brim is we're going to knit a knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, all the way around. So we're going to knit one stitch and then purl one stitch, knit one stitch, purl one stitch, etc., all the way around. So in order to knit one stitch, if you're not familiar, you're going to take your right needle and you're going to insert it on the left side of your stitch here, and you're going to poke that through. You're going to take that yarn, your working yarn, not your tail yarn, and you're going to wrap that around your right needle and slide your needle out and push it to the front and slide your stitch off. Now to do the purl, you're probably going to want to watch this a couple times if you haven't done this before. You're going to wrap your yarn to the front, so it's in the back, and we are going to pull that to the front. We're going to insert our needle in from the front of our stitch on the right hand side and through like this. Wrap our yarn around and push that out through the back and pull it off. Then we're going to take our yarn and wrap it back around to the back of the needles. I'm going to push these up Then we're going to do a knit stitch again. So inserting your needle through the left hand side out to the back, wrap your yarn around that needle and pull it through and pull it off. Switch your yarn to the front, insert your needle from the right hand side out to the front, wrap the yarn around and push that guy down to the back and off. And wrapping your yarn around to the back, insert your needle on the left hand side and poke out through the back, wrapping the yarn around your needle and pulling him out again to the front and off. And wrap your yarn to the front, insert your hook from the right hand side out the front, wrap the yarn around your hook, push him out to the back and off. And bringing your yarn to the back, insert your needle from the left hand side, push through to the back, wrap your yarn around, pull through to the front and off. And you're just going to continue like this all the way around, purling. You want to keep a good amount of tension, but not too much. You don't want to be knitting your stitches too tight. Try to keep your hands loose. That's why I like using the bamboo needles, because your stitches you have to force them off a little bit more. They won't just slide off, which is nice. Okay, and your stitches will start looking something like this. So you can see if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember if I'm doing a knit or a purl stitch next. Your knit stitches will have the V and your purl stitch will have the bump. So knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. Now we need to do a purl. And of course, if you know what you're doing, just knit and purl. So I'm going to go and I will meet you guys back around at the front. You're just going to keep continuing to knit one and purl one all the way around until you reach your stitch marker. Okay, I've got my last 2 stitches until I get back to my stitch marker. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to knit one and purl one. I'm going to bring my yarn back around to the back, and I'm just going to slide that stitch marker onto my needle, and I'm ready to continue. So I'm going to do the exact same thing of knitting 1 stitch and purling 1 stitch all the way around. So you're going to knit all your knit stitches and you're going to purl all your purl stitches until you reach the end of your row. And we're going to do that until we have a total of, let's do 7. I feel like 7 will be good for this yarn. So we're on round 2, and we're going to go until we have 7 rounds. So I will meet you guys back here when we have 7 rounds of ribbing. Just completed my 7 rounds of my brim in that knit 1 and purl 1. At this point, what we need to do is switch over to our larger size needles. So I'm actually going to remove my stitch marker. I'm not going to need it right now. Put that off to the side, and I'm going to grab my 10mm needles. I kind of like to pull my right one out just a little bit so that those stitches don't go anywhere. And I'm going to put these ones over here, and you're basically just going to start knitting like you would using this one, but you're going to ignore that one and pretend he's not there anymore. So grab the new needles and you're going to insert it as normal, and all we're going to do is knit all of these stitches. So find your working yarn there, wrap it around as you would a normal knit stitch, and knit it onto the new one. And same thing with the next one. You're going to insert your needle, wrap it around, and knit it onto the new needle. I'll try to do that over here a bit more. So you're just going to knit every single stitch around until they're all on the new set. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first because this guy just flops around and goes wherever he wants, and it's super annoying. That's why I kind of like to pull it out and see if he'll drop down there. But just keep knitting all the way around, and I'll do that with you guys. Alternatively, if you did have interchangeable needles, you would just unscrew the smaller size and screw on the new size and then just keep going as normal. But I do prefer working with the fixed circulars just because the stitches don't, like the needles, they don't untwist, which is nice. Sometimes you can get those ones that just keep untwisting and then your work falls apart. Okay, I'm coming to the end here, so I've got my last 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and then there are the old needles. We're just going to put those away, and now we're on to the larger size. So that's how easy it is to just change your needle size. You just literally pick up the new size and start knitting with it. Make sure you grab that stitch marker and put it back on there. And we're just going to continue to knit every single round until we reach a length that we like. I'm going to do 18 rows or 18 rounds, and then I'm going to check in and see how that's looking. So I'm going to show you once you get to a long enough length how you can kind of try it on and see if it's long enough for you. But for right now, you're just going to keep knitting until you reach a decent length. So knit, 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 knit. And I will show you where I am shortly once I've added some more length. Here I've knit about 7 rows of the body, and this is just a quick check-in to show you what your hat should be looking like at this point. And I'm just going to continue because obviously this is not long enough to be a hat yet. If you think you have maybe a really small short head, I would try maybe 16 rounds and then try it on. If you think you have a bigger head, maybe just stick with the 18 and then try it on and see. Keep in mind though, we are going to do a couple of rounds for decreasing the top of the hat so that we can have it a little bit better shaped. Okay, so I'm going to come back when I have 18 rounds knit. And we're going to try this on and see if it's good to go before we start our decreases. Okay, so for try on time, I'm going to remove the stitch marker and just put it off to the side. And I'm going to pull my needles like this, just so that the stitches aren't right at the tips and they won't fall off when I put this on. So make sure you have a lot of working yarn so you have the room to put this on your head. And let's see, this might be a little too short right now. I might have to add some more. Actually, no, I'm kind of liking how this one is fitting on me. If I were to like pull my needles tight, I actually think that's perfect for how I'm going to be adding a couple of rows to finish this off here. So I'm good to start decreasing. If you were to find that like you didn't have a good enough amount of space here at the top and you wanted some more of your head covered, definitely knit some more rows. It's up to personal preference. 18 worked for me with my gauge, so my tension, all of that. But if you want yours longer, slouchier, whatever, knit a couple more rows and then we can move on to the decrease, which I'm going to show you next. So to begin our decrease, we need to put our stitch marker back on if we removed it to try on our hat. And we're going to knit 2 stitches as normal, and then we're going to knit the next 2 together, and we're going to repeat that all the way around to the end until we can't do that stitch repeat anymore. So let's go ahead and knit the first 2 just as normal. 1, 2. And to decrease stitches and knit 2 together, you can pinch those guys together there, and you're just going to go in on the far side here and stick your needle through both stitches as opposed to one, but the same way you would as you would knit 1 stitch, you're just going to knit it through 2 stitches, and you're just going to knit those off. And then you're going to do knit 1, knit 1, and we're going to repeat, and we're going to knit 2 together. So knitting through both of those stitches. And keep going. Knit 1, knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 1, and knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 1, and knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 2 together. And of course we can't quite repeat that same pattern here because we only have 2 stitches left before our stitch marker, so we're just going to knit those as normal. So just go ahead and knit that. Knit 1 and knit 1, and that's our first round of our decreasing. And the next round here, what we're going to do is we're just going to do knit 1 stitch and then knit 2 together. So knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together. I'm going to pull some more yarn out here. And just continue that all the way around, knitting 1 and knitting 2 together. Oops. Okay, and again we have 2 left at the end that we're just going to knit as normal. And you can see we've decreased those stitches quite a bit. So we're starting to go a little bit more rounded at the top. And for our very last decrease row, we are just going to knit 2 together all the way around. So let's just knit those 2 together. Knit those 2 together. And you're just going to knit 2 together all the way around. If you find it's getting really hard to fit your stitches on your needles because you're going to run out, you can pull this needle out, pull it tight, and this is kind of like a magic loop spot. Just make sure when you go to knit that you don't have a huge gap here. Pull that tight and you can just keep knitting onto the needle there. The excess will stay here for your loop, but it won't cause any gaps when you're working. So if you find you have to pull that out, don't be afraid to do so, as it will make things easier for you once we have less stitches that we're working with. And again, if that's starting to get a little fiddly, just pull it through and you're just gonna use it as normal. Just making sure there's not a huge gap here. Pulling it tight as you knit around. And this time we are going to knit these two together, finally. Okay, so I'm going to pull my needles forward like this, and you can see now we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches on our needles, and that's good enough for me. I'm going to grab a pair of scissors, and I want to keep a decent length tail for closing up the top here. So I think probably here is good enough. Cut my working yarn. We can move that out of the way. I'm gonna want to grab a large eye darning needle. Mine's blunt so it doesn't hurt. And I'm going to thread that tail in there. And with the needle, when my hat's facing me like this, I'm going to use this left hand needle. I'm just going to sew through these loops here to get them off of the needles. So pull that through. You're just going to sew through all of those until your needles are free. Pushing that through. Okay, so I'm going to pull through that. Set my needles aside. Now my hat is fully free, which is nice. I'm going to pull tight to close the top here. And I'm actually going to sew through some of these stitches just to make it nice and tightly closed. So go about once around the top. And I'm going to put my hand inside the hat, which just makes it easier. And I'm going to drop my needle down into that middle opening and pull that through, and then turn my hat inside out so I can see that top part there. And I'm just going to find a stitch that's kind of like opposite where that's coming out, and I'm going to tie a knot. Sometimes I do it twice just to make it very secure. Now, if you're going to add a pom-pom, you are probably going to want to keep just a little bit of a tail, because I like to tie a knot with the tail to kind of secure that, but it's about that much is good, a couple of inches there. We're going to go and turn that back inside, or right side out. And we need to deal with this little tail. So I like to flip my hat this way, and I do pull the tail out so that it's now on the inside of the hat. I'm just going to fold this here so it's a little bit easier to work with. I don't need all that tail, so I'm just going to cut off some excess before I start weaving it in. And then I'm going to thread my darning needle again. And I'm going to start weaving this around these stitches here because this will be on the inside of the hat, but just weaving it through here is going to make that nice and secure, and then that tail won't pop out. So I weave that through there and pull that through. Want to make sure you don't do it too tightly because you don't want this to become indented. Then I turn and I go the other direction on the other side of these knits here. Go just one before the end, pull that through, and then I do go one more time just to really get that tail hidden in there. And pull that through. And this part here will really indicate for me the back of the hat. So I know I want that like dead center, the back of my head. So this is the back, and this would be the front. You can add a pom-pom. If you have a pom-pom maker, you can go ahead and make a pom-pom like I did here, or you can add a faux fur pom-pom to top it, or you can just keep it plain. You can sew a little tag. I have these nice little screw-on ones that you can add, or you can get little wooden ones to go on there. But that's how you knit a basic hat. I didn't want to leave you guys in this video without seeing what the pom-pom would look like, so I did go ahead and make one. I just used an extra large pom-pom maker that I picked up from Michael's. If you want a tutorial for how to make a pom-pom, I can also do that. It's pretty straightforward. There's probably a lot of them already on here. You can purchase this pattern in my Etsy shop, and it will kind of follow along with this video as well. If you do make a hat from this tutorial, I would love to see it, so tag me wherever you post, social media, TikTok, Instagram, all that. I love seeing and sharing your guys' work too. But that's it for today. See you guys next time.